For the first time now, through digital assets and stablecoins, we're actually starting to see innovation in the core of the infrastructure, in the rail. There is a risk of economic activity going towards more liquid markets, which means you might see Canadian participants increasingly start engaging more with US-denominated stablecoins.
Today we are exploring the future of our financial infrastructure. In 2026, the shift from experimentation to enterprise adoption of digital assets is an immediate strategic necessity for Canadian institutions.
My advice is don't stay on the sidelines. Let's get on the field. And even if it means starting in a small way, you start.
Hello everyone, this is Kripa Anand and welcome to the CanadianSME Small Business Podcast. Today we are exploring the future of our financial infrastructure. In 2026, the shift from experimentation to enterprise adoption of digital assets is no longer a what if. It is an immediate strategic necessity for Canadian institutions. Joining us is Soumak Chatterjee, partner at Deloitte Canada, and a leading voice in the global payments and digital assets practice. A published author with the World Economic Forum and Rotman MBA graduate, Soumak advises regulators and financial institutions on navigating the evolution of crypto and stablecoins. He's here to discuss Deloitte's industry-first alliance with Stablecorp and why Canada must lead in tokenized money. So, before further ado, let's welcome this very special guest. Soumak, welcome to the podcast. Such a pleasure to have you with us.
Thank you for having me. This is a very exciting time in the world of payments and financial infrastructure. I'm happy that I get to play a little part in it, and thanks for having me.
No, of course, this is indeed a very timely conversation, and I'm definitely looking forward to it. Now, as traditional financial borders begin to blur, we are witnessing a fundamental shift in how value is moved and stored across the world, right? So, from that perspective, I'd love for you to begin the conversation by educating our listeners about how are stablecoins reshaping global finance.
Yeah, I think that's a fantastic place to start, right? So, for a long time, I think our payments industry has innovated, but that innovation has been what I call at the level of customer experience and reshaping like experiences and efficiency on top of existing rails. And what I mean by existing rails is the financial infrastructure in Canada and globally that allows money to move, right? So these would be the systems run by Payments Canada, which is our high-value payment system called Links, our retail payment systems like ACSS. Globally, these would be platforms like SWIFT, which is used for wire payments. For the first time now, through digital assets and stablecoins, we're actually starting to see innovation in the core of the infrastructure, in the rail. So in a way, you can think of this transformation as a new money rail. And that is what makes it very transformational, because you are no longer just creating experiences and products on top of existing rails, but you're innovating at the heart of the infrastructure itself, which is why this time I feel the impact that this could have broadly on the future of our financial infrastructure is so potent and so important for us to spend time on.
No, definitely. This sounds like a game changer. And, moving from speculative assets to practical liquidity management tools, it allows for a level of transparency, as you mentioned, and audibility, that traditional systems simply out there cannot match. Now, moving ahead, Soumak, Deloitte Canada recently announced a strategic alliance with Stablecorp, which is being called an industry first for financial infrastructure. So that is huge. Huge congratulations for that as well. Now, I'd love for you to explain that what exact problem does the Deloitte Stablecorp Alliance solve for Canadian banks out there?
Great question. Great question. So, these instruments, stablecoins, have been around in the crypto digital asset ecosystem for a while. Their major use to date has essentially been as a bridge assets for parties who are active in transacting in the crypto part of our ecosystem.
Right.
So you may be trading between two cryptocurrencies, and you might want to liquidate some of your positions, hold some in a more stable asset. People use a range of stable coins for that. Now, what we've seen is that ecosystem is starting to expand into the regulated financial institution space. Why? Because regulation is catching up. Like we have seen what is happening in the U.S. right now with the Genius Act and a number of other regulatory measures that are actually allowing safe, compliant use of these assets to drive benefits for regulated financial institutions. E.g., this is becoming more and more mainstream every day. And as it gets mainstream, and if you look at the benefits of what stablecoins can bring to the financial infrastructure around speed, around 24/7 availability, around more seamless movement of collateral around the world, a better and more accessible way for customers to engage, you see financial institutions starting to develop their own capabilities on how to bring these assets and innovations around stablecoins, tokenized deposits to their customers. What we are trying to do with Stablecorp happens to be one of the first compliant stablecoins in Canada that is Canadian dollar denominated, regulated through the OSC, and we see that being one example of other Canadian dollar denominated stablecoins that are going to be in existence. And our partnership is an effort to experiment and then to prove out how innovations like QCAD, which is Stablecorp's asset, can be integrated within the regulated financial services infrastructure run by our banks, such that it can be used in a manner that is safe, that is trusted, and that works with the existing infrastructure that our banks have. So this partnership is trying to make it real and trying to make it easy for our banking clients to create products and better experiences for their clients.
Loved how you articulated that all. And this is a very exciting partnership because combining Deloitte's advisory and risk expertise with regulated stablecoin infrastructure, it creates that enterprise grade trust that institutions genuinely need to finally scale. So that's amazing. Next, I'd love to look at why Canadian banks must modernize urgently, because there's also a sense of urgency in this, I feel, right? So I'd love for you to address to all the Canadian banks out there and explain that what risks do Canadian banks face by delaying this modernization process?
This is absolutely the topic that I spend so much time talking to my clients. There is a tremendous space of innovation that is happening south of the border, in
Right.
particular, and around the world on this topic. Regulators are moving fast. There is Genius, which is already active in the U.S. The Canadian government, through the Stablecoin Act and Bill C-15, are putting regulations in place right now in Canada that would allow better ability for our financial institutions to engage. We are risking, given the speed in the U.S. and given the scale that some of the U.S. dollar-denominated stablecoins are starting to gain, USDC, USDT being two examples, there is a risk of economic activity going towards more liquid markets, which means you might see Canadian ecosystem and Canadian participants increasingly start engaging more with US-denominated stablecoins, which then naturally creates a monetary sovereignty risk to Canada as a whole. So I think that's the macro need for Canadian equivalent stablecoin assets that are regulated, that are safe, that can be used by Canadian participants, such that we can we can drive this and we don't risk importing the financial infrastructure of the future in Canada. I think that's the crux of the urgency and the need for our not only banks, but regulators like technology providers, fintech ecosystem to come together. The challenge is coordination. The challenge is this is a multi-stakeholder effort.
Right.
This needs public-private partnership with regulators guiding the journey such that Canada can move with pace, can move with purpose, and can move with intention.
Definitely. I think it is a collective effort, as you said. And preparing for regulatory readiness and tokenization today is the only way to protect Canadian market share against the immediate threat of foreign digital money. To the financial leaders and entrepreneurs watching, in 2026, waiting is a high-risk strategy. We are seeing a massive shift where digital money is becoming the standard for global commerce. If Canadian banks don't clarify their role in this ecosystem now, they risk ceding the ground to foreign platforms that don't prioritize Canadian safety and compliance. Deloitte's alliance with Stablecorp is the signal that the infrastructure is ready. Don't let your institution be sidelined by legacy thinking. Modernize your tokenization strategy today to ensure Canada leads with trust and safety. It's time for a quick break right here, but don't go anywhere because when we return, we'll break down the real world roadmap for modernizing financial infrastructure. Stay tuned.
Hey, you think you know UPS? Yeah, that's us. Everybody knows that. You know what you didn't know? This. Okay, try to keep up. Ocean, us. Ground, rail, air, so us. Guess who? Us. Customs cleared, borders cleared, done. Us. You still with me? Wait for it. Boom. Us. Intelligent, automated, fulfillment. Us. Yep, healthcare too. Digital your thing? Yeah, well, book it, ship it, track it. You feeling me yet? Yep, that's all us. That's all UPS.
Welcome back. Let's jump right in and explore the practical steps institutions can take to build secure, future-ready digital finance systems. Now, on that note, I would love for you to explain the practical steps. Like for all the listeners who are listening to this right now, what do you suggest are the practical guidelines to integrate digital asset infrastructure?
Yeah, I think the steps are going to be different based on the role you play on the ecosystem. Like if I start with our banking industry, I say always start from value. Like start from what is it that you're trying to do that will create a better experience or a better product for the customers that you serve. Right. Let's take an example. If you're trying to create a better way to move money around the world, for ages, the financial industry has innovated around global payments. Use that as your use case and look at how stablecoins can actually change how money moves around the world. And that means getting real with it, getting hands-on, like leveraging something like a Stablecorp, one of the examples in the Canadian market, and actually experimenting on how would you leverage Stablecorp within a regulated banking experience. And that means you have to bring cross-functional teams in your institution together. That is teams that drive the business and the product vision. Those are teams that look at risks. Those are teams that look at finance and balance sheet impact. Those are technology teams who would be responsible for building the integrations and the connections to the financial infrastructure. Those are teams in operations who look at day-to-day how these product can work without any defects and take care of customer service needs. So it is a multi-stakeholder engagement unless you are willing to get hands-on and roll up your sleeves and start experimenting to it. We would not make progress. This is not something you do only on PowerPoint slides. This is actually something you build towards. So my ask would be, wherever you are in the ecosystem, whatever your role is, think about how this can create a value for your customers and start experimenting. Those experiments could be small, but they will be impactful, and it would help and it will help establish what your journey could be in making this technology being more valuable to your clients.
Beautifully explained again. I think prioritizing interoperability, as you mentioned, right, and resilience, it allows for a seamless transition into the digital money ecosystem without disrupting the current operations. Beautiful. Now, I'd love to, look at building the future of finance through digital assets. So let's do a little time travel here. Imagine if I were to give you a time machine and we were to go 5 or 10 years into the future. When you get out of that time machine, how exactly would you envision Canada's digital money ecosystem evolving?
This is a fantastic. So if I could get on that, whatever
Time machine.
time machine that we create,
Yeah.
I think the future is really exciting. I think I look at it as payments should be instant. Like, we should not have to think about when I send the money to, let's say, my parents who live in India, like globally,
Yeah.
they should get the money fast.
Right.
Payments, for its most part, should be invisible. Like, we shouldn't have to think about
Right.
like that experience other than any different than me sending you an email.
Yeah.
It should be efficient, by which I mean it should be largely free. I think it should get to the point where the customers can get economic value from sending that money at a price point that is fair.
Yeah.
And mostly payments these days are trending towards free. It should also be 24/7. Like, we should not be dependent by like closing hours and closing times. We are a naturally connected economy globally, and payments should be 24/7. And the last one, I would say that it needs to be accessible for all, right? Like everybody, irrespective of, are you a small Canadian institution trying to build a business who needs to pay their suppliers? Maybe those suppliers are in the US or other parts of the world. You need to be able to make those payments happen at the cheapest cost point, with predictability, with certainty, and the guarantee that the monies you're paying are being received in its full form on the other side. So I go with instant, invisible, free, 24/7, and accessible as my dream place for Canadian payments to be.
Beautiful. You've painted quite a picture there, and the future definitely looks very accessible for everyone involved in there. And we couldn't complete this conversation without mentioning artificial intelligence, right? So, with that now in the picture, how quick do you think this entire thing is going to take?
I think people sometimes underestimate like how quickly these things can gain adoption
Yeah.
with all the building blocks that are now being put in place. So think of that future that we just went to. In that future, I don't think it's only humans who are making these transactions.
Right.
I think you would have AI agents who are responsible for transacting on our behalf. Maybe you and I are on a page with our favorite like interface, like whatever you use, Claude, Google. There's
Yeah.
many examples right now. And you're having a conversation to buy something, and then you have AI agents who are actually transacting on your behalf. Or you might be a small business where you have your core accounts receivable, payable processes that have been agentified, and there are agents transacting on your behalf with the right controls and your right risk guardrails. So we need to think of that as a possible future that is not too far out. Stablecoins and like tokenized money
Yeah.
broadly, I think plays a tremendous role in it.
Right.
Because at the end, these are digital native instruments. They can be programmed. They can be controlled to meet certain risk parameters. So it is a perfect meetup with this AI revolution that we are in. And if you think of AI agents transacting on our behalf in the future,
Yeah.
like tokenized money and this new rail is essentially the foundation of what can make that transaction happen in a more seamless and risk-managed fashion. And that is where I think there is tremendous potential to innovate. I actually think it's going to happen sooner than we all think.
Definitely. How cool would it be to, have our digital AI avatars who are making the transaction on our behalves? That's
It also
amazing.
makes it scary to some extent.
No, definitely. I'm loving this conversation, and definitely we'd love for you to be back, hopefully for, a longer in-person episode, the next that we do. But for now, before we let you go, if there's one final piece of advice that you have for our listeners today, something that you would want them to remember, specifically for those who are overwhelmed by everything that's going on right now, if there's one thing you could whisper into their ear, what would you say and why?
I would say get yourself engaged in this conversation. There isn't, this is a technical topic. It is natural to feel overwhelmed, but starting small, understanding the topic, finding a small experiment which can progress your business to the next step and help you serve your customers better, it's going to make all of us do better as an economy and for Canada as a society and a country to keep pace with the innovations that are happening in the world. So my advice is don't stay on the sidelines.
Right.
Like, let's get on the field. And even if it means starting in a small way, you start.
Right. Just take the first step, right?
Correct.
That is indeed a great reminder that focusing on safety and compliant infrastructure is the first step towards long-term success. So, Mark, it was such a pleasure having you on the podcast today.
Yeah.
Thank you so much for joining us.
I appreciate you guys having me. Thank you so much.
All right, that was Soumak Chatterjee from Deloitte Canada. A masterclass in stablecoins, tokenized deposits, and the urgent need for Canadian financial modernization. To all the listeners, thank you so much for tuning in to the Canadian SME Small Business Podcast. Be sure to subscribe and visit CanadianSME.ca for more such resources. To learn more about how we are supporting the ecosystem, please visit the Canadian SME Small Business Foundation at smbfoundation.ca. And lastly, a special thank you to our partners, UPS and ADP, our HR partner, for their ongoing commitment to empowering SMBs across Canada. I'll see you all in the next episode. Kripa Anand signing off.